Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This video, I'm going to be reading some insane coworker stories. I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get into the first story. Story 1. The lunch thief who got himself caught. At one office I worked in, somebody kept stealing lunches out of the break room fridge. At first, it was random stuff like a yogurt, half a sandwich, a soda, nothing huge. Then it got worse. People started bringing full meals in the morning, and by noon the containers were empty or just gone. One guy lost an entire takeout order twice in the same week. Somebody else brought leftovers from a nice dinner, labeled the container with their name in giant black marker, and that disappeared too. The weird part was that no one ever saw it happen. It was always during that little stretch around lunch, when people were either in meetings or out at their desks. After about 2 weeks, the whole office was annoyed. Someone sent an email to everyone saying if this kept happening, they were going to ask for the fridge area to be checked on more often. Another person taped a note to the fridge that said, "Whoever is doing this, stop." The note was gone by the end of the day. Then one woman on our team decided she had enough. She brought in a takeout container from a normal restaurant and made it look like a regular lunch. But inside she packed the hottest food I have ever smelled in my life. Not the kind of spicy where you just need water. I mean painful. She put it in the fridge and acted like nothing was different. About 20 minutes later, one of the guys from accounting rushed into the break room coughing, poured himself water, drank it way too fast, then opened the freezer and started eating ice with his hands. Everyone just stared at him. Then the woman who brought the lunch walked in, looked at him, looked at the empty container in the trash, and said, "So it was you." He instantly started making excuses. First, he said he thought it was his food, which made no sense because he had told people that morning he forgot to bring lunch. Then he said he was only trying a bite because he thought it might have gone bad. That somehow sounded even worse. The office manager pulled him into her office right there. Later we found out he had been taking food for over a month. Not because he was struggling. Not because he was confused. He just thought if he only took some of it, nobody would know. After that, people started labeling their food like it was evidence in a court case, and the lunch stealing stopped immediately. Story 2. The promotion that blew up in one day. At another job, everyone on the team assumed this one woman was about to get promoted. She had been there longer than anyone else in the department. She trained new hires, she covered for people when they messed things up, and half the time she was already doing team lead work without the title. Nobody even debated it, it just felt obvious. Then management called a meeting and made this big deal out of the announcement. Our boss stood up there talking about leadership, growth, the direction of the team, all the usual stuff. Then he announced the promotion, and it was not her. It was a guy who had been there maybe 6 months. The room went completely weird. Nobody clapped at first because everybody thought maybe they heard him wrong. Even the guy who got promoted looked surprised. The woman who should have gotten it just sat there smiling in that tight way people do when they are trying very hard not to react in public. The meeting ended. Everyone went back to their desks, and the gossip started immediately. Some people thought the boss just liked the new guy more because he was louder in meetings. Some thought he only got picked because he was good at talking, even though other people did most of the real work. Then later that afternoon, everything got worse. An email that was clearly meant for upper management somehow got sent to the whole department. In that email, our boss said the woman everyone expected to get promoted was strong operationally, but not the right personality fit for visible leadership. Then he described the new guy as less experienced but easier to shape. That phrase spread across the office in like 10 minutes. People were reading it on their phones, turning their chairs, and asking each other if it was real. The woman came back from a meeting, saw the email, read it, and did not say a word. She just stood up, walked into our boss's office, shut the door, and stayed in there for maybe 15 minutes. The next morning, she had already requested a transfer to another division. A few weeks later, that other division promoted her almost right away. Meanwhile, The guy who got the title never really recovered from how it started. People were polite to him, but the respect was gone before he even settled into the role. Every mistake got noticed. Every decision got questioned. He was basically trying to manage a team that had already decided he was standing in a position that should have belonged to someone else. And the manager who sent that email did not last much longer either. Once people find out how you really talk about them behind closed doors, it changes everything. Story 3. The fake family emergency. There was this guy I worked with who always had some kind of emergency right when he did not want to do something. If there was a late shift, his car would have an issue. If there was a hard task, suddenly his dog needed help. If he was supposed to close, somebody in his family would call with a problem. At first, people gave him a lot of grace because nobody wants to be the person who assumes the worst. But after a while, the timing got way too perfect. Then came the day he completely ruined his own reputation. We were short-staffed, it was raining outside, and he was scheduled to stay late. Around 4 in the afternoon, he looked at his phone, got serious really fast, and said his brother had been in a bad accident and he needed to leave right away. Obviously, everybody stopped what they were doing. The manager told him to go, someone else covered his work, and people were actually worried for him. Then maybe an hour later, one of our coworkers was on break, scrolling social media, and suddenly said, "No way." The guy who had just left for the family emergency had posted a picture from a baseball game. Not an old picture either. Same clothes, same time, holding a giant drink in the stands like he was having the best day of his life. The caption said something like, "Needed this." At first, people thought maybe the timing just looked bad. But then his friend posted another picture and tagged him. Same game, same section, same everything. The manager saw it and just stared at the screen for a solid 5 seconds without saying anything. The next morning, the guy came in acting all tired and serious, like he expected people to ask how his brother was doing. Nobody asked. The manager just told him to step into the office. Apparently, he tried to keep the story going at first. Then he switched it up and said his brother was okay, but he personally needed some time because he was shaken up. That excuse might have worked a little better if there were not 2 fresh photos of him smiling at a baseball game. He did not get fired that day, but from then on, nobody trusted anything he said. If he said he was stuck in traffic, people rolled their eyes. If he said he sent an email, people checked. Once somebody proves they will fake a family emergency to get out of work, there is really nowhere left to go after that. Story 4. The birthday cake fight that turned into a full office rivalry. At one company, there were 2 women on the same team who had clearly been competing with each other for a long time. The strange part was that they were never openly rude. They were always smiling, always polite, always saying the right thing. But you could tell they were keeping score. If one got praised in a meeting, the other suddenly had a bigger update later that day. If one stayed late to help with something, the other made sure people heard about the project she finished over the weekend. It was quiet, but it was very obvious. Then one week, one of them organized a surprise birthday celebration for the boss. She got a custom cake, decorated the conference room, bought plates and drinks, and had everyone sign a card. It actually came out really nice. The boss loved it, everybody clapped, and the whole thing seemed normal. Later that day, though, the other woman apparently made one little comment in the break room and said the cake looked rushed. That should have been the end of it. It was not. By the next morning, the story had changed 3 times. One person heard she said the decorations looked cheap. Another person heard she made fun of the whole party. By lunch, it had somehow turned into her insulting the boss's taste. I still do not know what she actually said, but whatever it was, the woman who planned the event took it personally. She stopped speaking to her directly, not in a loud way either. She did it in the most office way possible. She would respond to emails and somehow answer everybody except her. In meetings, she would say things like, "Can somebody let her know I already handled that?" Then the other woman started doing the same thing back. For weeks, they were basically speaking through the rest of us like we were translators. It got so awkward that people would avoid being alone with both of them at the same time. Then a month later, there was another office celebration, and this time the second woman volunteered to organize it. She brought in cupcakes, set up the table, and made everything look clean and polished. But sitting right on top of the stack of bakery boxes, where anybody walking in could see it, was a printed label that said, "Rush order completed." It was one of the most petty things I have ever seen at work, because it was just subtle enough that nobody could call it out without looking dramatic. The first woman saw it, looked at the label, looked at her, and just said, "Nice touch." That was it. No yelling, no scene, nothing big. But after that, everybody knew exactly what was going on. New hires figured it out within a week. People picked sides without ever admitting it. And all of that drama came from one cake and one comment that may not have even been that serious in the first place. Story 5. The exit interview that took down half the department. The craziest co-worker drama I ever saw did not happen while someone worked there. It happened when he left. There was a guy on our team who was very quiet. He was never the center of anything. He came in on time, did his work, barely complained, and did not join in when other people were gossiping. Most people probably thought he was just the calm type. Then one day he gave notice that he was leaving for another job. Nobody made a big deal out of it at first. People said congratulations, asked where he was going, and figured that was that. But on his last week, he had an exit interview with Human Resources, and something about that meeting clearly went very wrong for management. The next morning, 3 different managers looked like they had not slept. One of them kept shutting his office door. Another suddenly started being extremely nice to staff he had ignored for months. Human Resources was pulling people into private conversations all day. Then the rumors started. The quiet guy had apparently documented everything for over a year. Not just general complaints. Actual dates, screenshots, old emails, saved messages, missed overtime pay, examples of favoritism, supervisors taking credit for other people's work, managers letting their friends leave early while everyone else stayed late, and fake promises about promotions that were never real. The wild part was not even what he handed over. It was how he did it. He did not send some emotional goodbye message. He did not blow up in a meeting. He did not rant in front of the team. He waited until he already had another job, then handed over organized proof on the way out. Within 2 weeks, one manager was gone. Another got moved to a different department. Payroll suddenly corrected an issue people had been complaining about forever. A supervisor who used to act untouchable got very quiet, very fast. And the guy who left did not come back to watch any of it. He just moved on. Months later, someone in Human Resources told one of my coworkers that it was the most detailed exit interview they had ever seen. That honestly made sense to me, because once the rumors came out, a lot of people started replaying the past few years in their heads and realizing he had probably noticed way more than anyone gave him credit for. He just never said anything until the timing worked in his favor. That whole situation changed how I looked at quiet people at work, because sometimes the person who never says much is not clueless at all. Sometimes they are just paying attention and waiting. Alright, that was the last story. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you later.